7 spine-chilling disappearances revealed, unexplained cases of cursed souls in sinister settings. The sun dipped below the horizon, cloaking Maplewood in an unnerving shadow. The sleepy suburb, with its white picket fences and well-kept lawns, had secrets breathing beneath its seemingly tranquil surface. Whispers of children vanishing, shadows plaguing the innocent, and sinister legends twisted around the neighborhood like smoke. Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, fought fiercely to maintain stability for her kids, Emily and Ben. But as twilight settled, a chill crept into her bones, gnawing at her resolve. Working long shifts at the local diner wore her down. When she finally laid her head on the flattening pillow, desperate for sleep, the unsettling echoes of distorted laughter filled her home. It wasn't her children's giggles, not now, not when they were supposed to be tucked away in dreams. It was a haunting sound, gripping her heart with cold fingers. A quick glance at the clock told her midnight had long passed. Was this how fatigue twisted her reality? Just her mind playing tricks? But on the nights that followed, it continued, insistent and unnerving. Each time she closed her eyes, shadows danced at the edges of her vision. Figures lurked just beyond the glass of her living room window, darting away the moment she turned to confront them. Hours passed, a sleepless cycle, and the photographs lining the walls seemed to morph. Their smiles dulled, eyes now vacant and hollow, void of joy. And there was Mrs. Wilson, that once welcoming neighbor. Their conversations became unsettling interrogations, and intensity in her eyes, like a predator sizing up its prey. Sarah felt exposed, as if Mrs. Wilson saw something unhinged in her, something dark. On a stormy night, thunder roared like an angry beast outside. She tucked Emily and Ben snugly into their beds, her heart aching. As she crept downstairs, the oppressive silence engulfed her, an unwelcome weight. When she peeked into Ben's room, panic struck. His bed lay empty. "Ben!" she called out, voice cracking with alarm. The house responded with eerie stillness, amplifying her despair. The walls seemed to close in, as dread crawled beneath her skin. Where was he? Outside, the wind howled, howling warnings that sent tremors down her spine. Shadows cloaked her neighbors' homes, their windows, stained with the glow of flickering lights, revealed nothing but darkness. As she sprinted down the street, every footfall echoed like a heartbeat, faster and faster, her breath hitching with fear. In her panic, Sarah remembered something. A reel-to-reel tape that she dug out of the diner's storage room once caught her curiosity. Its whispers rattled in her mind. Murmured prayers. Children's names never forgotten, but not found. Cursed souls trapped in this modern-day haunting. As she ran, the stories of Maplewood revealed their ugly truth, each thread tightening around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The oppressive weight of the neighborhood's history bore down on her. Houses that once felt like shelter morphed into prison cells woven with deceit. As she pieced together the sinister connections and the lore of Maplewood, a deep hostility broke through the air, shadows thickening around her as whispers taunted her sanity. The lights flickered, then extinguished. Sarah was plunged into darkness, swallowed whole. Shadows swirled, their voices murmuring her name, suffocating her with fear as the last echoes of Ben's innocent laughter resonated ominously through the void. The dread in her heart pressed like a stone. Would she lose her son to this malevolent force, just one more victim of Maplewood's chilling legacy? The darkness felt alive, a living shroud that wrapped around Sarah as she fought to catch her breath. She pressed against the wall, feeling the chill seep into her bones, and squeezed her eyes shut against the chaos. But where there should have been silence, there was a cacophony of voices, sharp, menacing, a chorus of the damned. "Mommy, help me. A small voice echoed through the gloom, slicing through her heart like a knife. "Ben!" Sarah cried, hands trembling as she fumbled for her phone, praying for light, for a glimpse of hope. But her hands were slick with sweat and fear, and when she finally managed to turn on the flashlight, the beam cut through the dark only to reveal empty rooms and shadows that danced just beyond her reach. As she stumbled forward, heart racing, she thought she heard a laugh, a tinkle that echoed like broken glass through the oppressive silence. The laughter twisted and turned, wrapping around her mind like a snare, drowning her in disorientation. It reminded her of the stories, the whispered admissions of parents who had lost their own to the darkness of Maplewood. Each step took her deeper into the heart of the house, each creak of the floorboards a portent of despair. She reached Ben's room, breath hitching in her throat. Toys littered the ground, familiar and yet alien in the flickering light. Everything felt wrong. The air was heavy, charged with something dark, suffocating. Sarah glanced at the closet door, half ajar. Her stomach churned. "Ben!" She called again, voice wavering. The laughter erupted again, this time closer, wrapping around her like a vine. She backed away, heart pounding, searching for a way out. But the darkness unfurled around her, thickening like oil. She squeezed her eyes shut, thoughts racing. What had she done to deserve this? What did Mrs. Wilson know? In a moment of sheer determination, she gripped the flashlight tighter and flung the closet door open, the beam revealing nothing but the emptiness she feared. Just clothes. Just silence until Ben's squeaky voice cut through the dread as if mocking her. "Mommy, can't you see me?" Her breath hitched. It came from outside, a whisper drifting through the cracked window. She sprinted back to the living room, the shadows weaving tighter. "Ben!" Panic gripped her throat, claws sinking deep. "Where are you?" Outside, a soft glow beckoned from the backyard, dim but enticing. Driven by a desperate urge, she flung open the back door, silhouette against the feeble light of the moon. The garden lay shrouded in spectral mists, her heart pounding as she stepped into the unknown. "Ben!" she wailed, voice splintering under the weight of despair. But as she ventured further, the backyard twisted. It was alive, an array of dark shapes writhing, pulsating beneath the soil, children's voices, laughter mingling with cries. Something flickered behind her, a presence, watching. The moment froze as she turned, and there stood Mrs. Wilson, eyes glimmering in the moonlight, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Don't you see, Sarah? They are all here, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Sarah asked, dread pooling in her stomach. "For you to let go," she taunted, stepping closer, merging with the shadows, her voice slinking into the air like smoke. "Just like the others." With every word, the gaping mouth of fear opened wider, choking her with the rawness of truth. Panic rushed over her like icy water. And just as she took a step back, a scream pierced the night, a scream of familiar anguish that propelled her forward, heart igniting with a desperate resolve. But could she rescue him from the depths of Maplewood's secrets? Could she defy its cursed history? With panic driving her lungs, she sprinted toward the swirling shadows in the yard, heart hammering, whispers echoing after her as the trees loomed like predators. And there, in the air thick with dread, she knew she had to confront whatever darkness had stolen her child. But in that moment, a curious thought echoed in her mind. Were the whispers warning her or beckoning her deeper into the abyss? What awaited her at the heart of Maplewood? Would she find Ben, or would she lose herself to the curse hanging heavily in the air? The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay as Sarah plunged into the garden. With each step, the ground seemed to pulse beneath her feet, as if the earth itself were alive, aware of her presence. Shadows spiraled around her, elongating and distorting, whispering secrets she dared not understand. "Ben!" The desperation in her voice was raw, but the sound felt swallowed by the encompassing darkness. What had she stumbled into? She swept the beam of her flashlight across the yard, revealing twisting roots and gnarled plant life. The glow bounced off something metallic, and she knelt to examine it. A child's toy, a small, rusted car. It was buried slightly in the soil, the paint peeling away like skin off flesh. "This is his," she whispered, grasping it as fear settled heavier in her gut. Moments passed, the cold clasping her heart as a breeze picked up, carrying the faintest echo of her son's voice. "Mommy, help me!" It fluttered around her like a moth, drawing her forward toward the house's edge, where the ground dipped into darkness, a yawning maw demanding to be explored. The laughter returned, sharp yet tantalizing, and she felt a shiver skitter down her spine. "Turn back," it hissed, curling around her senses. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. Fear ignited something feral within her. Suddenly, a figure flickered near the edge of the trees, small, indistinct, just out of reach. She squinted, instinctively stepping closer. Ben! Panic clawed at her throat, thickening her breath. But as she neared, the form melted away into the shadows, replaced by a chorus of giggles, boyish and raspy, that filled the air like tiny shards of glass. "Run, Mommy! Come play with us!" Their voices swirled around her. Disembodied laughter rang out, heightening the urgency. Darkness beckoned her closer, promising warmth and safety. Just as she felt the urge to step forward, a hand gripped her shoulder from behind. She screamed, whirling around. But it was only a tree branch, thick and twisted. Sarah's heart thundered against her ribcage, the booming pulse almost drowning out the whispering laughter filling her ears. She was losing her mind, but the impulse to save her son burned within her resolve crystallizing. "Just show me where he is!" She shouted into the night, her voice cracking. Silence enveloped her in response, like a wet blanket pressing down. Then, from the depths of the garden, a shadow separated itself from the walls of night. It was Mrs. Wilson, her smile wide, eyes glinting like shards of ice. She stepped forward, merging seamlessly with the darkness, the essence of the house flowing freely around her. "You must understand, Sarah," Mrs. Wilson crooned, her voice syrupy sweet yet laced with malice. "Maplewood claims what it desires. The children, they belong to it now, just like you will if you stay. Don't you see? They are simply waiting." "Waiting?" Sarah parroted, fingers trembling, fear strangling her voice. "Waiting for you to join them, to let go of the past. You can't save him unless you free yourself." Heart pounding and mouth dry, Sarah fought against the pull of those words. Did she dare believe them? Could despair be the only way to save Ben? Or was that the darkness manipulating her, playing on her fears? She felt the ground shift beneath her, a slight tremor sending ripples through the earth. The shadows crept closer, squeezing the warmth from the air, calling her to step into their embrace. "There's no other way," they whispered, lacing around her ankles like creeping ivy. Desperation surged. "No!" she cried, spinning away from the advancing shadows, eyes wild. "I won't give in." But just behind her, the laughter crescendoed. "Mommy, it's too late." Suddenly, a piercing scream ripped from the depths of the yard. It echoed against the trees, and for a brief moment, it sounded like Ben. "Ben!" Sarah exploded forward, branches whipping against her. The chaos enveloped her, the shadows pressing in, the laughter growing louder. She had to break through. She had to find her son. With each frantic footstep, the darkness twisted around her. Tighter, dragging her down, and as she sprinted into the expanse of night, she wondered what price would she pay to reach him. A bright flash illuminated the area, a single moment of clarity before plunging back into darkness. But as she ran, she realized something that chilled her to the core. What if she wasn't just losing Ben? What if he wasn't the only soul that Maplewood sought? As she veered toward a small clearing, the trees parted like a curtain, unveiling a disturbing sight, a gathering of shadowy figures, children staring with hollow eyes. What were they waiting for? What sacrifice would be demanded of her next? A palpable dread coursed through her. Sarah hesitated, staring into the void, swallowing her son's voice. Was she about to step into the trap set for her, or was there still a chance for escape? The darkness throbbed around Sarah like a living thing, squeezing in, making her skin crawl. She could see their sunken eyes staring, pooling in shadows, sending chills racing down her spine. It was a macabre gathering, a circle of lost children, their faces pale, mouths forming silent screams, their laughter now a whispering wind that echoed off the trees. Ben! Panic gripped her throat, strangling her voice, but she pushed through the fear. I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm coming. Her instinct to protect kicked in, a fierce urgency propelling her forward. The figures stood still but pulsated with energy that thrummed in the air. She reached out, desperate to close the space between her and the swirling shadows. Where is he? She pleaded, her voice breaking. The children glanced at her, a collective pivot of hollow eyes, their smiles widening unnaturally, stretching too far to be innocent. Come play with us, they chanted, a sing-song taunt wrapping around her feet like creeping vines. We want to be free, their words slithered into her mind, sending her thoughts spiraling. What did they mean? How could they be free? She felt a familiar pang in her heart, the kind she'd felt since Ben went missing. They wanted what she wanted, a chance, a breath of hope. As she stepped closer, the shadows flickered, darting around her like fireflies in the night. She reached out, fingertips brushing against ashen hands. They felt cold, wrong. A murmur of cold laughter cascaded through the air like a chilling wave, drowning out her heartbeat. Mommy, hurry. Ben's voice came again, urgent and plaintive, drawing her deeper into the gathering. I'm waiting. Steeling her resolve, she locked eyes with each child, searching for the familiar gaze of her son. I won't leave any of you, she vowed, a burning determination igniting within her. I'll find you. But as she gazed into the darkness, the children began to shift and change, features melding into a grotesque mimicry of their former selves. Weeping faces stared with pleading eyes, contorted in unholy expressions. Their laughter turned to wails that pierced her ears, echoing through the night. You shouldn't have come. The shadows writhed, a tide of despair crashing against her. They reached out with thin, bony fingers, and she felt herself sucked into a whirlpool of lost souls. The earth trembled beneath her feet, a reminder of the price she'd have to pay. No! She screamed, ripping herself free, spinning back toward the path she'd followed. But the garden was shifting, impossibly, as if it conspired against her, the layout dissolving into an increasingly alien landscape. Desperation clawed at her insides, her heart hammering against her ribs, each beat in sync with the darkness that threatened to close in. Mommy, it's beautiful here. A voice echoed, a sound both familiar and terrifying. Was it Ben? Or the twisted echoes of children lost? Sarah backpedaled, stumbling over gnarled roots, gasping for breath. I will find you, Ben. I promise. Her voice cracked, but hope mingled with fear, the two twisting like vines around her soul. In front of her, the clearing warped, the children's shadows bending, stretching into grotesque shapes, and then, one shadow stepped forward, distinctly different, hair tousled, a stance she recognized. Mommy? It whispered, a flicker of light in the consuming darkness. Ben! The scream tore from her lips, a beacon in the encroaching chaos. But the figure halted, staring at her with wide, innocent eyes that twisted along the edges into something far more sinister. You need to let go, Mommy, it said, the voice intertwining with the others, dying like a candle left out in the wind. I want to let go. She shouted, clenching her fists. With a sudden burst of clarity, she dashed toward the apparition. But the crowd pressed in, laughter looping back into the air. Let go with every ounce of strength, she forced her legs to move, racing towards the haunting image that felt nearer yet impossibly unreachable. As she extended her hands, she could already sense the shadows reaching for her, attempting to anchor her in the void. Shadows don't define me. Sarah yelled into the darkness, feeling her voice reverberate through the night. I am not yours. A sudden stillness fell over the garden, the laughter fading, replaced by a heavy silence echoing in the void. In that moment before she reached Ben, the air shifted, the shadows tensing around her, threatening to collapse in on itself. She felt an ominous power grow, an ancient force rising from the very soil of Maplewood. Staring into her son's eyes, she gasped not with hope, but with dread, for they no longer shone with the vibrant innocence she remembered. Was it too late to save him? The question hovered in the air, heavy and suffocating, as the garden pulsed menacingly. Sarah realized then, the domain of Maplewood was not just hunting for children, it had set its sights firmly on her too. With the scream of a mother threatened, she launched herself at the shadow, determined to reclaim what was hers or die trying. But in the depths of the encroaching night, a voice whispered just above the rustling leaves, "You belong to us now." The air thickened as Sarah sped forward, heart pounding. The shadows closed in like a ravenous beast, hungry to consume her. Each child yanked at the edges of her sanity, their grating laughter now morphing into guttural cries, echoing around her like a haunting melody. She could hardly breathe, the weight of despair pressed down, making her struggle with impossibly heavy limbs. As she reached the emerging figure of Ben, a dark mist coiled around his body, obscuring him further. "Mommy?" The word came out nearly broken, echoing back at her enshrined in dread. His once sweet voice had a harsh undertone, as if two souls fought for control inside that fragile frame. "Ben!" she shouted, desperately, feeling an immediate surge of hope. But the shadows pulsed with life, eager to snatch that flicker away. "Don't listen to them," she cried, extending her trembling hands. "You're not lost." But the laughter grew louder, a cacophony that pressed against her ears. The children danced, bodies twisting, their limbs bending at odd angles, mocking her. "He is ours now," they sang, the words curling around her like a sinister fog. "Stop!" Sarah screamed, fumbling forward as the ground shuddered beneath her. She could feel the ancient power beneath, an echo of everything that had been buried in Maplewood, a graveyard of lost hopes and souls. The trees shivered, leaves rustling like soft whispers. "You can't have him." Closer now, Ben's face warped, light playing tricks against the shadows. The wide eyes she cherished were vacant, swirling with darkness that triggered every instinct in her to cling tighter to reality. "You need to let go, Mommy," he echoed again. An icy fear gripped her heart. "Ben, I'm here." Tears streamed down her face, but she forced herself to stay grounded, focused on breaking through the illusion, the nightmare. "Fight them. Fight them for me." As she lunged forward, Ben's form grew indistinct, fading like smoke. A scream built in her throat, desperate and unyielding. The children surged closer, a swarm of pale faces twisted in cruel joy, relishing her torment. Then, in a flash, the children parted, revealing something horrifying. A large figure towered in their midst, cloaked in shadows, exuding an ancient presence. Its face flickered in and out, shifting between horrid visages, a twisted expression of joy, despair, and hunger. "Entrapment is a gift," the entity hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "You've lost already, dear mother." "No!" she cried, clutching at her heart. Her breath came in gasps, but she wouldn't give in. "I won't stop searching for him. You can't have us." With a surge of primal energy, Sarah dashed toward Ben, feeling time stretch. The world warped and twisted around her, a tunnel of darkness closing in. But she wouldn't relent, barreling against the sickening pull that tried to draw her back into the shadows. "Let him go!" she shouted. Her voice echoed, powerful, bouncing back at her like a pulse of defiance. The figure staggered, momentarily weakened, eyes flaring with rage. The children, caught in its thrall, hesitated, their glee faltering, but it was fleeting. In an instant, the shadows thickened, constricting her, pushing her away. "You are one of us." The creature snarled, the children's faces merging into a grotesque mask of horror. "You'll never escape." Gripping Ben's apparition with everything she had left, she called out, "We're not done yet. You belong with me." But as she strained to hold on, tendrils of darkness wrapped tightly around her limbs, dragging her deeper into the cold abyss. The world around her shattered, fading, laughter melded into screams of agony, and in that moment of pure, suffocating despair, she felt Ben's warmth slip away. No. No. The scream rang out, full of anguish, ricocheting through the garden as she fought, yet felt the inevitable draw. But somewhere deep in the entangled shadows, a soft flicker of light pulsed, flaring in the darkness. "Mommy, help!" It was a whisper only she could hear, a song of hope laced with fear. Just as the darkness threatened to engulf her, Sarah caught a glimpse of another path, a fleeting glimmer of what could be. It beckoned, whispering not with the agency of despair, but a chance toward breaking the cursed cycle. What was this new possibility? Could she unravel the very fabric of Maplewood and confront the horror wrapped around her? As her vision faded into blackness, so too did her certainty. But the glimmer held tight, promising something else, something deeper. "Will you take the leap?" came the enticing whisper, forcing her to grapple with the choice of defiance or surrender. The shadows slithered closer, hushed laughter threatening to drown her out. Fear clutched at her throat, but Sarah knew one thing: the fight was far from over. In the suffocating darkness, Sarah felt the weight of despair pressing heavily on her chest. The shadows twisted and coiled around her, whispering secrets of hopelessness. She could barely move, each breath laborious like dragging weights through a stormy sea. And still, amidst that consuming blackness, that glimmer flickered on the edge of her consciousness, urging her to fight. "Is it real?" she thought, clutching her heart as panic clawed at her throat. "Can hope still exist in a place like this?" Each heartbeat was an echo, a reminder that her son was out there, somewhere in the clutches of the monstrosity that had ensnared them all. "No, no," she gasped, forcing herself to break through the suffocating veil of shadows. It didn't matter if the faint light existed or was just a cruel trick. She had to hold on to something, anything, if it meant saving Ben. "Let me see you," she shouted, her voice drowned in the chaos but her resolve ignited. "You can't hide from me forever." The laughter, haunting and cruel, swelled around her, but Sarah pressed on, fueled by pure desperation. The surroundings began to shift, a swirling maelstrom of distorted colors and erratic sounds. A figure blurred in and out of focus at the top of her vision, the monstrous entity that had gripped her child. "Do you really think you can resist?" It laughed, the timbre a mixture of delight and disdain. "This is where you belong, in the dark." She could feel the tremors beneath her feet, the ground responding to the entity's presence. With every step she took, shadows lashed out, seeking to drag her back into their tender embrace of despair. "Not again," Sarah cried, her voice strained but unwavering. Drawing from a well of rage and sorrow, she gathered every ounce of strength her body could muster. "I will not give up." With surprising clarity, she advanced, slicing through the miasma of darkness. Each step healed a fraction of the anguish clawing at her heart, as fragments of hope poured into her thoughts. "Ben, I'm coming." Suddenly, the darkness surged, and the laughter morphed into banshee wails, shrill and menacing. Tiny hands cold and hollow reached for her, desperate to pull her into their twisted realm. A punch of terror crashed into Sarah as she faced a swarm of ghostly children, their faces contorted into masquerades of grief and malice. "What do you want from me?" she screamed, a mixture of sorrow and fury boiling beneath her skin. Their eyes were mirrors of lost souls, reflecting her own pain back at her. "I have to save him. Let him go. Join us." They shrieked in unison, their hollow voices bending notes into a haunting tune that lingered in the air, imbued with anguish and longing. "You'll be happy here forever and ever," but their pleas, false dreams wrapped in shadows, sent shivers down her spine. They were prisoners, just like Ben. She wouldn't accept their false sanctuary. "No," she yelled, cutting through their melody. "You're trapped in this nightmare. It's time to break free." Just then, the entity reared up, towering above, annoyance flickering across its grotesque features. "You really think you can change fate?" The sudden silence that followed felt sharp, electric. It was as if the world paused, allowing Sarah to surge forward, hands outstretched towards that single flicker she'd seen. The core of her determination was there, an unquenchable fire lighting her path, yet before she could reach it, the shadows coiled tighter, 1,000 whispers clawing at her mind, drowning the flicker, stifling her hope. "Never forget," the entity hissed, its flickering face shifting into the visage of a terrified Ben, eyes wide and pleading, "You can't save him, just let go." "No!" Sarah shouted, anguish pumping through her veins. "I won't lose him again. I refuse." But as she heard that soft pleading, her resolve faltered. "Mommy, help," echoed in the abyss, and doubt crept in. What if she drove him deeper into the darkness? In that critical moment, the ground beneath her quaked, a dark vortex opening wide, threatening to swallow her whole. What if all of Maplewood was a trap, designed to break her? As the tendrils of shadow drew ever closer, Sarah had a choice to make. Was she strong enough to face the truth? Or would she surrender, becoming yet another lost soul in the cyclic abyss? The darkness roared with sinister laughter, awaiting her answer. The shadows twisted tighter around Sarah, suffocating her will like a serpent coiling around its prey. Each second bled into the next, time becoming an elastic prison that warped her sense of reality. Her heart thudded against her ribcage, desperate for escape, but the laughter echoed like a haunting chime in the void, hammering at her resolve. "Mommy, help," the words slithered through the air, chilling her to the bone. The image of Ben flashed in her mind, eyes full of fear, marred by darkness. Her chest clenched painfully. "I can't give in," she whispered to herself, feeling the pressure of the darkness mounting like a storm. With every ounce of determination, Sarah pushed against the encroaching shadows. The swirling mass fought back, flailing. Dark hands brushed her arms, icy fingers curling around her wrists, pulling her deeper into their despair. She screamed, a wild sound that mingled with the haunting laughter, a battle cry against the oppressive weight of hopelessness. "You cannot fight what you are." The entity rasped, its voice reverberating through the darkness, echoing in her mind. "You are one of us now." "No!" she roared, taking a step back. The swirling nightmare faltered. Sarah's vision cleared just enough to see flickers of light in the distance, soft, shimmering strands weaving through the void. "Ben!" she cried, her voice growing stronger. "I can save you." Her words pierced the shadows, and suddenly the laughter turned to screeches, the cacophony retreating momentarily. This was her chance. The small glimmers danced eagerly, beckoning her forward, promising solace against the dread seeping in from all sides, but the shadows lashed out one final time, pulling her legs, feasting on her fear. Sarah fell, arms splayed, and the rippling darkness clawed at her, eager to drag her away into their abyss. She fought against the earthly pull, digging her fingers into the cold ground, and surged upward, muscles burning as she clawed toward the distant sparks. "Ben!" she cried, scrambling forward, heartbeat racing as visions of her son filled her mind, his laughter, his smile, his trusting gaze. Each thought ignited a blaze of longing that battled the icy grip of despair, but then, a hand shot from the shadows, strong and unyielding. It grasped her ankle, and a searing pain stitched through her flesh. The ground shuddered with life, pulsating like a beating heart beneath her. A child's face emerged from the gloom, wide-eyed and full of sorrow, a perfect replica of Ben but with hollow cheeks and lips that twisted into a terrified grimace. "Mommy! Help us!" it gasped, desperation spilling from its empty eyes. "We are lost, trapped forever." The haunting wail of the entity returned with vigor, pulsing around her. "See? They cannot escape. And neither can you. You'll all belong to me." Sarah's breath turned to gasps, her entire being consumed with panic. "No, I want tea," she screamed, wrenching her foot free. But no sooner had she done so than the void rippled, expanding, twisting, morphing into a gaping maw threatening to engulf her. "Join them," the entity shrieked, its voice a twisted melody of glee, words clattering like bones. "Only here will you be free of pain." Terror clawed at her throat. The faces of lost children filled the swirling mass, their cries blending into a chilling harmony that resonated deep within her heart. The vortex loomed closer, and her will began to splinter. Losing sight of her goal became a whisper, sowing seeds of doubt, but amidst the chaos, the glimmers transfixed her, lighting up once more. "Ben! I believe!" She shouted, a rallying cry fueled by power and love. The shadows hesitated, a moment of stillness anchoring her. For the first time, Sarah felt a crack and opening in the suffocating darkness. Could she force it to shatter entirely? Just as she stretched her hand towards the light, the ground shook violently, shadows writhing in wrath. "You cannot leave!" It thundered, every syllable dripping with malice. The pain seared through her veins as the vortex surged. She braced for the impact, a flood of children's faces surrounding her, faces echoing her son's. Would she plunge into this nightmare, lost among the shadows forever? Or would her belief be enough to break the cycle? Something deep within her flickered. Would it be her last stand? The shadows laughed in discord, their sinister mirth drowning her thoughts, as she prepared for the final confrontation between light and dark in the throbbing silence. The choice awaited: stay and bask in the false comfort of despair, or stretch into the light and face whatever horrors came next. What if hope was just another game they played? With a final surge from the darkness, the world around Sarah crumbled. The ground beneath her twisted, a black pit of despair reaching for her with voracious intent. Pain pulsed through her limbs as shadows clawed at her, a desperate cry in the fray of chaos. But beneath the weight of the darkness, a single thought ignited her heart. "Ben! I won't leave you." From deep within, a fire sparked, pushing back the icy tendrils that sought to drown her spirit. The glowing strands of light pulsed like a heart, urging her forward. Somehow, she willed her aching body to lean into that light, fighting through the consuming shadows. The faint laughs of lost children mingled with the monstrous wails of the entity, creating a horrible symphony that clawed at her sanity. "Join us, Sarah," it crooned, its voice dripping with oily sweetness. "Don't you want to be with him? Don't you want to be free? Free?" The word jabbed at her mind like a thorn. They weren't free, they were pieces of something cruel, trapped and twisted in this nightmare. Sarah lunged toward a flickering light, arms outstretched, fingers yearning for its warmth. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage, pulling her back with ferocity. She fought against them, her screams merging with their wrath, drowning everything in a tempest of sound. But beneath the tumult, she heard a voice, soft yet piercing, one she had almost forgotten. "Mommy, help Ben." The sound was a lifeline, anchoring her. It chased away the fear like dawn banishing night. "I'm coming," she howled, her voice carrying with desperation and love. With a tremendous might she didn't know she possessed, Sarah scrambled forward. The darkness wavered, thin wisps unraveling as she pushed through, inch by grueling inch. The gaping maw of shadows tightened around her lungs, cutting off her breath, but she wouldn't stop. The light shimmered closer. One last heave, she launched herself toward it, the fabric of darkness tearing at her clothes, scraping her skin raw. Everything hurt, but the thought of Ben kept her moving. There was no room for doubt, no time for fear. A brilliant flash exploded before her, blinding her momentarily, and for the first time, the laughter ceased. Silence fell like a heavy blanket, then pain surged through her body, as if she had plunged into icy water. A gasp escaped her lips, followed by a bone-deep chill that crawled up her spine. She had made it through. But as her vision cleared, reality shattered once more. She wasn't in the light. Instead, she found herself standing alone in a shadowed clearing, surrounded by trees twisted into gnarled shapes. The sky above pulsed with an angry hue, a sickly green that made her stomach churn. Ben! Panic clawed in her chest, terror seeping into her bones. The silence now felt ominous, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. A weight pressed heavily upon her shoulders, suffocating, reminding her that she was still in a realm of uncertainty. From among the trees, the whispers re-emerged, soft murmurs twisted like smoke, curling around her senses. "Help us," Mommy echoed disembodied voices, fragments of lost souls pleading from the darkness. "Where are you?" she demanded, her heart beat like a war drum in her ears. The ground trembled slightly beneath her, whispers rising in intensity, as though the forest itself was alive, hungry for her despair. Suddenly, shadows danced behind the trees, flitting just beyond her sight, mocking her isolation. She spun around, searching, but the woods appeared endless. A sharp crackling broke the stillness. What had once been a cacophony of lost laughter was now drowned in sinister whispers that hissed her name, tempting her down a twisted path that felt all too familiar. Sarah, with trepidation, she stepped forward, uncertainty coursing through her veins. What had she unleashed? What lay ahead in this murky expanse blurred between light and dark? Fingers trembling, she realized, she was not alone. The shadows writhed benignly now, breaking apart like waves against the rocky shore, and deep within, she sensed something more sinister. Growing a presence that was keenly aware of her every move. Ben. As she uttered her son's name, the underbrush shifted, darkness coiling in response. Then she knew. A choice loomed, stark and menacing, between saving Ben or confronting whatever vile creature awaited her in this devil's playground. Would she succumb? Or would she fight her way through, defying the evils hiding in the gloom to uncover the truth of this cursed place? The shadows beckoned, swirling tighter, hanging over her like a shroud, whispering promises of liberation laced with dread. Was her only path focused on a flicker of hope, or was it lined with a darker, inevitable fate? And at that moment, the forest echoed again, a sinister laughter rolling through the trees, echoing louder than before. "Join us." Sarah could feel her heart pounding wildly, and her mind raced. Was this a game? Would she dare to step beyond the boundaries of terror into the uncertain depths of despair? With one foot poised on the edge of an abyss that called to her, she held her breath, feeling the pull. Would she take the plunge? Or hold on to whatever truth remained? And somewhere deep in the darkness, the whispers multiplied, breathing life into her greatest fears. Sarah's breath quickened, a cold sweat glistening on her forehead. The whispers floated around her like a noxious fog, twisting and curling through the air, each syllable echoing her fears back at her. "Join us." The voices coiled around her throat, tightening like a vice. She swept her gaze frantically from the shadows, seeking any sign of Ben, but the darkness only deepened with her despair. "Ben." The panic in her voice cut through the ominous silence, yet it only seemed to bring more laughter, cruel and taunting, as if the woods themselves were mocking her. Then, a subtle rustling caught her attention. Just beyond the nearest tree, something flickered, a momentary shimmer hidden beneath the weight of the murk. Her heart beat louder, each thud pushing back against the rising tide of hopelessness. She forced her legs to move, feeling them tremble beneath her as she stepped forward, praying it might lead her to her son. As she stumbled closer, the whispers shifted to sudden, sharp clarity. "Help us, find us, save us." The words twisted inside her, striking a nerve that sent chills rippling through every limb. They were lost souls, she realized, desperately clinging to her spirit, urging her to stop. What if they were like Ben, ensnared in a realm beyond the light, trapped for eternity? She had to reach him before it was too late. Just as she reached the edge of the trees, the air thickened, electric with dread. Shadows swirled menacingly, creating a barrier that felt impossibly solid, constricting like hands around her throat. She pressed against the dark veil, her fingers grazing over the cold, splintered bark of ancient trees. They seemed to whisper their own secrets, alive with memories of sorrow. "Don't go, don't leave." The voices cooed again, but now it felt like a warning. Heart racing, she hesitated for just a moment, torn between the clawing terror of the unknown and the fierce love for her child. Memories of Ben ran through her like wildfire, his laughter, the way he hugged her tightly, and those better days filled with safety and warmth. Then, the forest trembled. A sharp crack echoed through the clearing as a branch broke above her head, sending a flurry of dead leaves spiraling around. Sarah gasped and stepped back, the shadows shifting with her movement. From the depths of the shadows, something growled, a deep, guttural noise that vibrated in her bones. "Come play," it murmured, the voice slithering through her but wrapping around her heart like a noose. "You'll never be alone, leave me alone." She shouted back, her voice fierce despite the shaking of her hands. Summoning every ounce of courage, she forced her way through the dark tendrils creeping closer, focusing on the flicker of light lingering just beyond reach, a beacon of hope buried beneath layers of dread. But the laughter turned sinister, echoing from all around her, as if the trees themselves were sneering at her defiance. Join us, become one with the lost. The shadows lunged towards her, dark claws reaching out, dragging her back to the depths she feared most. She stumbled, her fate hanging by a thread, poised between light and the encroaching shadows clawing at her sanity, and then, she heard it, a tiny whimper, fragile yet unmistakably Ben's voice. "Mommy!" A fierce wave of determination rushed through her. She might be fighting a losing battle, but she would not back down. She wanted to fight for him, for everything they had shared. Every ounce of love filled her, warm and radiant, propelling her forward. Roots snagged at her ankles as she pressed deeper into the shadows. "Ben, I'm coming." But the darkness pulled harder, dragging her down. Would she find him before the shadows consumed her whole? In the depths of the blackness, echoes of laughter flared around her, a chorus rising in crescendo, drowning out everything else. Shadows pressed closer, suffocating her resolve as a haunting voice whispered, "You'll never leave." And just like that, in the heart of despair, a flicker of hope sparked within her. Could she still rescue him, or had she wandered too far? Entrapped in a nightmare with no end, the shadows beckoned again, relentless and voracious. As they merged with her, she felt the very fabric of reality fraying. Would it swallow her whole? She had to decide now. She had to choose. Could she face the creature lurking in the depths, or would she lose herself in the dark? With her heart pounding, Sarah clenched her fists, unwilling to give in. The stakes had never been higher, and in that moment, she heard it, a low, rumbling growl, promising more horror, promising the dark horrors awaiting her, waiting to rise to claim her soul. The choice loomed larger than life itself, an abyss she could either fall into or soar above. Would she embrace the terrifying truth, or would the darkness take everything she held dear? There was no turning back now. A flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye drew her attention, and then she saw it, a flicker of red in the forest shadows, just beyond her reach. "Ben!" She screamed, the journey into true darkness just about to unfold. What awaited her behind that veil of hope? The forest rumbled as Sarah stumbled forward, heart racing. Shadows pulsed with menace, twisting around her limbs like vines intent on pulling her back. "I'll find you!" she shouted, defiance surging through her as she fought against the oppressive dark. The air crackled with tension, becoming thick and hot like a brewing storm. Then, amidst the chaos, a flicker of red caught her eye. The ember-like glow pulsed with life. It was a memory, a vision of Ben smiling, full of laughter. "Mommy!" he called again, his voice echoing through the tangled roots and sinister whispers. That tiny voice, a lifeline in a sea of despair, pushed her forward. She couldn't waver. She had come this far. With every ounce of strength, she pressed deeper into the shadows, every step met with resistance. The laughter that once echoed around her turned into a menacing roar, as if the forest itself rebelled against her. "Join us! Join us!" they sang, a cacophony of ghostly cries that swallowed the hope she held so dear. "Never!" Sarah screamed back into the dark, the very declaration shaking the trees above her. The shadows recoiled, momentarily fracturing under the might of her determination. She envisioned Ben, the love they shared sparking fire within her. Nothing, not fear, not darkness, would claim that. As she pushed through the veil of shadows, the air crackled with an energy that felt almost alive. The very ground beneath her trembled, whispering secrets of darkness and despair, but Sarah fought valiantly against the pull. "Ben, I'm close!" she shouted. "Just hold on." Suddenly, the forest erupted in laughter, a wave of chilling mirth crashing over her, but she did not flinch. Her heart thudded like a war drum against her chest. She felt the pull of those shadowy figures intensifying, their hollow eyes watching her every move. It was almost primal, like the way a prey feels when predators circle. Yet Sarah's love for her son anchored her, making her feet move faster, and then, as the shadows closed in, there it was again, the flicker of red, stronger this time, pulsing like a beacon. "Mommy!" Ben's voice cut through the clamor, clear and strong. "Help me!" No longer just a whisper, but a shout ricocheting through the darkness. "Ben!" Every nerve in her body ignited as adrenaline coursed through her veins. She charged towards the glow, each step piercing through a barrier of despair that had clung to her spirit. The darkness shrieked, swirling around her, claws extending and grasping for her essence. But she didn't look back. Ahead, a clearing opened up like a portal, surrounded by tree branches that twisted tightly, guarding whatever secrets lay within. As she reached it, the shadows recoiled, shuddering with fear. "You don't belong here," they hissed, voices rising in a panicked crescendo, and there, right in the center of the clearing, was Ben. He stood amidst a thrumming darkness, eyes wide and innocent, yet shrouded in an otherworldly glow. "Mommy!" he cried again, pure joy and desperation blending into a single note that chased away every ounce of dread in Sarah's heart. She rushed forward, arms outstretched, feeling the warmth radiate from him. But as she neared, she saw the chilling truth: the shadows were wrapping around him, seeping into his skin like a poison, his laughter mingling with their haunting cries. Panic surged through her. "No! Ben!" She lunged forward, weaving through the tendrils of blackness that snaked across the ground, reaching for her son as the shadows shrieked in fury. "Let him go!" Her scream shattered through the wailing, even as the darkness clawed at her back, pulling her away. "He's mine. You can't take him." The shadows twisted, their forms shifting grotesquely, darkness surging toward her. Just then, a discordant cry rang out, the very essence of the forgotten children echoed through the woods, hollering for freedom. They became one with Ben's fractured image. Sarah could feel the warmth of her love intersecting with their chilling wails. A revelation ignited inside her, a possibility to break through. At that moment, Sarah summoned every ounce of hope, every memory of laughter and light. "You will not take us," she declared, locking eyes with the entity looming behind her son, a grotesque specter that collected every fear. "I choose love. I choose him." As the words echoed, Ben's eyes flickered, caught between the tendril-grasping shadows and his mother's fierce determination. The shadows recoiled, unable to withstand the force of her love, trembling as light began to seep through the cracks of despair. "We are free!" Sarah shouted, feeling the light pulse within her, drowning the darkness that sought to entrap them. "We will break this curse together." With a scream born from a mother's will, she surged forward, the power of hope breaking through the confines of fear. A pulse of blinding brightness radiated outward, consuming the shadows, piercing through the veil of despair. In that instant, the shadows howled and began to break apart, fading into nothingness. Time seemed to stop as the encroaching dark evaporated, and in its place, the forest shimmered with brilliance. Light filled every corner, illuminating the faces of lost children all around her, freed from the grasp of despair. Ben reached out, his features morphing back into the joyful boy she remembered, his laughter ringing like a sweet song of victory. She pulled him into her embrace, feeling the warmth of his small body, solid and whole. Her heart soared, love flooding back through her, stitching together the fragments of their lives. "We made it, baby. We're free." As the last shadow melted away, the once dreaded woods shined brightly, trees standing tall and undamaged, a sacred boundary formed between darkness and light. They had conquered the curse of Maplewood together. Holding on to Ben, Sarah knew they would always remember the fear and pain, but it would no longer define them. They had faced the darkness and emerged together, bound by an unbreakable bond. As they returned home, the sun peeked through the horizon, casting golden rays across the neighborhood, where stories of hope would flourish. And if you've made it this far, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this heart-pounding conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible ending. Let us keep the torch of hope alive together.